Did you know that Professor T. Colin Campbell, the celebrated researcher and author of the China study, wrote this publicly? I simply want it known that I can no longer support anything Dr. Fuhrman says or does. If you want to know why Dr. Campbell said that, keep watching. Hi, I'm Jeff Nelson, and my wife Sabrina and I founded VetSource in 1996 after Sabrina put a life-threatening autoimmune disease into remission with a vegan diet. Although I studied English at Yale and Stanford and produced TV movies and TV commercials for years, my life changed course after Sabrina's disease was cured by a plant-based diet, and I decided to use my knowledge and my curiosity to discover what nutritional research reveals and to try and spread the word. Today, we are talking about how you can follow the money and see how some experts harm the public by making blatantly false claims about their weight loss programs that are easily exposed. This video is about the diminishing credibility of a researcher who heaped undeserved praise on himself for having the best weight loss results in history when it was all untrue and the study results of his diet were actually very unimpressive. Today I'm talking about what I read in a book that I just came across, and for me it raises the question, who can we rely on for information that we're going to use to make important decisions about our health? This is the book. It's called Report on Permanent Weight Loss by Roberta Russell. You can download this book yourself. It's free from the Columbia Academics Commons. I'm putting links and more information down in the description so you can get a copy. This book is about permanent weight loss, which is defined as losing a significant amount of weight and keeping it off for 5 years. And it's really interesting to look at the evidence about successful long-term weight loss. And there's none of that weak, advertising commercial baloney in there that you too often see. But there is one chapter in this book, which is what my video is about today. And it's a chapter that discusses a study I hadn't previously read about. It's a study about Dr. Joel Fuhrman's patients and their weight loss results. Dr. Campbell, whose name was originally on the study as a co-author, had his name removed from the study. Now, Dr. Fuhrman, of course, is a well-known doctor in the plant-based community. He's got best-selling books. He's on TV a lot. He has a large online business selling supplements. And I've known him. He's been a colleague of mine for about 15 years. And in this book, Dr. Fuhrman's weight loss study is held up by the author, Roberta Russell, as an example of, quote, failing to comply with scientific standards and as an example of a, quote, lack of truth in advertising. So what is the story? Well, it involves 5 people. It involves Dr. Fuhrman, of course. It involves a woman named Dr. Barbara Sarter, who is listed in the study as an associate professor of family medicine at USC and is referred to as an outside researcher. She is co-authored this weight loss study, and before that, she worked as an intern for Dr. Fuhrman, and she's gone on to do several studies with him, including omega-3 research, which I'll be talking about. So the story also involves John Mackey, who is the CEO of Whole Foods Market. It involves Professor T. Colin Campbell, who is an icon in the plant-based world, and it involves the author of this book, The Report on Permanent Weight Loss, Roberta Russell. Russell has a track record of consumer protection. She's written several books and had a number of published articles in professional journals. She's a businesswoman, a teacher, a student of research in weight loss and psychotherapy. She was an elected public member of the American Psychoanalytic Accrediting Body. I'm going to post a link to her bio and website if you want to learn more, but she's got a lot of testimonials in this book from heavy hitters, and she's hosted a long-running TV show in New York City called Life Talk with Roberta Russell, and that's how she met Dr. Fuhrman, and she's had many experts and famous people on her TV show. Her book, I think, is very well done, is very thorough, intelligent, dispassionate, and well documented. Again, you can download it and see for yourself. Dr. Campbell actually wrote the foreword for this book. Here is part of what Dr. Campbell wrote in the foreword. I encourage readers to read Roberta Russell's Report on Permanent Weight Loss. It may save your life. And then further down, because so many people are burdened with obesity, there is an enormous market for marketers who promise all manner of cures, very few, if any, of which work. This is a serious problem that must be resolved, for it is a burden for all, regardless of whether they are overweight. In her discussion of Dr. Fuhrman's weight loss study, Roberta Russell details how she discovered that the data in his study appeared to be grossly miscalculated and repeatedly exaggerated by Dr. Fuhrman himself to the public, both of which made the study results sound much, much better than they were in reality. She details how she obtained the study data from Dr. Sartor with Dr. Fuhrman's permission, and she analyzed the data and found what appeared to be egregious mistakes. All the errors just happened to make the weight loss results of the nutritarian diet look much, much better than the reality of the data. After having difficulty getting the corrections made, Roberta Russell said she contacted Dr. Campbell to bring it to his attention since he was originally listed as one of the co-authors in the study. Dr. Campbell wasn't even aware that the study had been published and was shocked at what he learned. Ultimately, Dr. Campbell severed his relationship with Dr. Fuhrman over what happened next in this incident, and I'm going to read from the book in a moment, and I'm going to read some public comments from Dr. Campbell explaining his position, as well as from Dr. Fuhrman explaining his. Russell's report first discusses Dr. Fuhrman in the introduction on page 5, and then here is the chapter, which is entirely about Dr. Fuhrman's study. I want to read a few excerpts from this chapter. False or misleading claims of enduring success at weight loss abound. The Fuhrman incident mentioned on page 5 of this report is examined here in detail because it is well documented and also illustrates the extraordinary level of acceptance of extreme and inaccurate claims by health professionals engaged in the weight loss endeavor. Rarely are the claims of unprecedented long-term weight loss so blatantly contradicted by the researcher or promoter's own published evidence, as was the series of wrong and sometimes false claims of the well-publicized author, doctor, and PBS star Joel Fuhrman, MD. Dr. Fuhrman publicly and repeatedly announced in video and radio interviews at professional conferences and in a currently marketed movie called Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead that he had published a study that he co-authored with T. Colin Campbell, PhD, and B. Sartor, PhD, that resulted in the best long-term weight loss results ever in the research history. Nobody gained the weight back, he said with a rush of animated enthusiasm at the video-recorded and web-posted World Preservation Foundation meeting.
Diet rich in micronutrients. This study, done on a high micronutrient diet, showed the average person lost 53 pounds, and nobody gained the weight back. They didn't yo-yo their weight. They lost their weight and they kept it off because it was a knowledge-based program.
The author, Roberta Russell, cites examples of Dr. Fuhrman repeatedly making highly inflated claims about his study. She links to examples online.
As a weight loss tool, the diet style I recommend has gotten very, very successful. We've even completed a study where they followed 100 consecutive people following the plan, and the average person lost 53 pounds, which was more weight loss than any other program ever tested. But I think the interesting thing was that even after the 2 years of the study, nobody had gained back any weight. And as follow-up on those people after that period, they still continued to lose and didn't gain weight back. In other words, the key here is that losing weight and gaining it back again, often called dieting, is of no value to people. It's only of value if they achieve a more ideal weight and they keep it off for the rest of their life.
Roberta Russell says that Dr. Fuhrman repeated a similar claim on the Dr. Oz podcast show, which she transcribed in her book. And both she and Dr. Campbell document and refute the mistaken and false claims made around Dr. Fuhrman's study. They both had the study data. Roberta Russell states that after Dr. Fuhrman's study was published, he went on a publicity tour of sorts, doing interviews, promoting his study and book, and he claimed that his study followed 100 people, that they lost an average of 53 pounds, and that after 2 years, no one had gained any weight back. Now, if you read the chapter in this report on permanent weight loss, or if you read Dr. Campbell's accounts that he shared publicly, or even if you read the published study yourself, you'll see that in Dr. Fuhrman's weight loss study, in fact, only 56 people were followed, not 100. The 19 out of 56 patients left at 2 years lost an average of around 34 pounds, not 53. By 2 years, most of the original participants had dropped out or gained weight. As for the 19 remaining patients, there was an average weight gain, not loss, between the first and second year. Only 4 or 5 people actually maintained their weight loss without regain after 2 years. So that was about an 8% success rate for keeping weight off after 2 years on Dr. Fuhrman's nutritarian program, and not the 100% success rate Dr. Fuhrman had repeatedly claimed in public appearances and on interview shows. Roberta Russell in her book discusses how the data in the Fuhrman study was filled with mistakes, all of which happened to make the weight loss of the study participants appear much, much higher than it actually was. She writes, all of the errors noted were in one direction, to increase the beneficial result. Russell illustrates some mistakes. The study started with 56 people, which included some very overweight people. They calculated an average starting weight for that 56 people, and then after 2 years, there were only 19 people left in the study. Dr. Sartor needed to calculate the average amount of weight lost by these 19 people that were still in the study. Now, here's the problem. Russell states that Dr. Sartor took the average starting weight of the entire group, which was much heavier, and not the 19 people who were still left, and she subtracted the average weight of the 19 people who were still left from this much heavier group. This made the average weight loss of these 19 people appear to be much larger than the reality, almost 20 pounds greater weight loss than the data for these 19 patients actually showed. Roberta Russell wrote, apparently, the end weight in the study had been subtracted from the much heavier and larger starting group, which of course spuriously created the appearance of a larger weight loss. Russell recounts what she calls a mystifying disparity when she asked for a published correction. She writes that Dr. Sartor corrected some of the errors in the study and at the same time eliminated one person from the study who hadn't lost that much weight in the 2 years. Now, the criterion for originally choosing which patients to include in the study was determined partially by their starting weight, and they set an arbitrary starting weight number that was higher for men than it was for women in order to be in the study. So after the fact, a woman patient of Dr. Fuhrman's in the study was changed into a man by Dr. Sartor, according to Roberta Russell. This change knocked that person out of the study calculation and thus brought the average weight loss up another 3 pounds higher than reality. Roberta Russell wrote, my copy of the raw data was blind to the sex of the individuals in the study, but Dr. T. Colin Campbell's was not. According to his raw data, this 143-pound man was actually a woman who was wrongly eliminated. Dr. Sartor's elimination of this person accounted for some of the difference between Campbell's and Russell's calculation of an average 34.25 pounds loss for the 19 patients described in the original study, compared to Sartor's correction from 53 to 37.6 pounds loss. So by changing a patient from a woman to a man in the study, the average weight loss of the group increased by 3 pounds. Dr. Fuhrman's weight loss study was a retrospective, meaning they were looking back at old data he had collected in years past on some of his patients. It intended to look at weight loss over a 3-year period, but Dr. Fuhrman or Dr. Sartor later decided to make the study only follow the participants for 2 years. The author Roberta Russell wrote, presumably, the researchers stopped the retrospective study early before the intended 3 years because only 5 patients were still losing weight without backsliding at 2 years. Now, Dr. T. Colin Campbell has written publicly on the subject of this study. Most people know that Dr. Campbell, in addition to writing the China study and other huge books about the plant-based diet, that he's published himself over 350 studies on diet and health. And he's even served on the review boards of many of the top scientific journals. His credentials and his integrity are unquestioned. Dr. Campbell stated that he was very troubled that Dr. Fuhrman repeatedly misstated the published study results in public, and he insisted many mistakes be corrected in the study. Dr. Campbell says he wrote to the medical journal in which Dr. Fuhrman's study had been published, and he removed his name, Dr. Campbell's name, from the study. This is Dr. Campbell's letter published in the journal, removing himself. Dr. Campbell said the journal actually edited his letter heavily before printing it and removed many details he gave for removing himself. But you can read the full original letter of Dr. Campbell's to the journal. It's in the appendix of Russell's book. Dr. Campbell publicly wrote of this experience, like I have done hundreds of times for reviews of other manuscripts, I had trusted Drs. Fuhrman and Sartor to honestly summarize the data, a huge mistake on my part as it turned out. He goes on, aside from Fuhrman's serious misrepresentations, this affair reveals how important is this matter of trust in science. It is literally impossible for reviewers and secondary authors of studies to examine the details of raw data. They must trust those who assemble these data in a form that can be properly reviewed, analyzed, and interpreted. When that trust is broken, science fails, and severe penalties can be the consequence. In this case, based on what I have experienced, I can no longer trust anything that Dr. Fuhrman does or says, as I said in my previous post. Were he to have been a member of a professional society, I am confident that he would by now have been put out to pasture. Dr. Campbell concluded, destroying the evidence of Fuhrman's misdeeds, as one of his friends wants to do, does not solve the problem. I simply want it known that I can no longer support anything Dr. Fuhrman says or does. Some have advised that my making this public may hurt this important area of work, but I disagree. Behavior like this only runs the risk of turning this idea into one more food fad for personal gain, a practice that has long plagued the public narrative on food and health. This has all been public for years. Roberta Russell's report on permanent weight loss was published in 2016. Dr. Campbell wrote extensively about this publicly in 2012. Dr. Fuhrman also posted on the same discussion string as Dr. Campbell. For example, Dr. Fuhrman wrote, "Not only did I have nothing to do with the data collection and statistical tabulation of those results, but Dr. Campbell had the access to and maybe even an obligation to confirm those numbers and calculations, not me." Dr. Fuhrman seems to suggest that maybe Dr. Campbell is to blame, even though Dr. Campbell says he didn't even know the study was published. Dr. Fuhrman's defense appears to have been, it wasn't me. I don't know. And I guess that apparently his co-author, Dr. Sartor, that she was the one responsible for all the problems. Dr. Sartor still works with Dr. Fuhrman. She's even helped him with his omega-3 studies, which Dr. Fuhrman uses in selling his DHA supplements. I'm going to be looking at Dr. Fuhrman's omega-3 research in my upcoming video because he's done a lot of the research that is used when people are being recommended to buy DHA supplements. Dr. Campbell even wrote to John Mackey about this. Mackey is the CEO of Whole Foods who had made Dr. Fuhrman director of research at Whole Foods. Campbell was expressing reluctance to rejoin the Whole Foods Advisory Committee due to Dr. Fuhrman's involvement. Dr. Campbell wrote to Mackey, and this is in the book, "I am extremely uncomfortable doing anything that Joel Fuhrman may be involved in. In all my years of writing and reviewing papers, testifying at length for the U.S. Federal Trade Commission on the reliability of scientific evidence, and in developing national policy for the National Academy of Sciences and similar agencies, I find Joel's representation of research findings to be about as reprehensible as any I have ever witnessed. His advertising of self-serving, distorted findings and his arrogant refusal to make amends when challenged is unacceptable to me. In professional research and policy communities, this behavior can ruin personal careers as well as seriously distort the credibility of this field. In my opinion, Joel's behavior is consistent and will not change. Thus, any change due to embarrassing exposure at this time will not be convincing of a personal change of values." Roberta Russell reveals a Whole Foods promo poster in her book, which featured Dr. Fuhrman's program and books, and you can see that Whole Foods said, a 2008 peer-reviewed published in Alternative Therapies magazine noted this program produced an average weight loss of 53 pounds per participant in only 2 years. And then there are some books by Dr. Fuhrman listed that you can buy at Whole Foods. Of course, the Whole Foods poster was not correct. There was never any 53-pound average weight loss, let alone every participant after 2 years. The Whole Foods poster said, Eat Right America's Chief Medical Officer Joel Fuhrman has treated more than 10,000 patients in 15 years, proving that a properly nourished body can conquer food cravings, seek its ideal weight, reverse chronic conditions, have more energy, result in brighter, healthier kids. Now, does the nutritarian diet do all these things that are claimed? Maybe it does, but it's hard to know what to believe when you discover you've been misled about this diet. If Dr. Fuhrman had over 10,000 patients in 15 years, like the Whole Foods poster states, this is an average of over 650 patients a year that Dr. Fuhrman was treating. Dr. Fuhrman's weight loss study says, under methods, it says all overweight patients who came to Dr. Fuhrman's office between 2000 and 2003 requesting counseling for weight loss were included in this chart review. It makes me wonder, if he was seeing around 650 patients a year, that would mean that out of almost 2,000 patients that he saw in 3 years, there were only 56 people trying to lose weight that could be included in this study. And of them, only 4 or 5 were able to maintain their weight loss after 2 years on the nutritarian diet without regaining. It seems to me like a very small number in 3 years out of so many patients that Dr. Fuhrman saw. Again, I am linking to all the information down in the description below. If you are interested, you should read about the Fuhrman affair yourself. So read Roberta Russell's report, read the part about Dr. Fuhrman. You can read statements from Dr. Campbell, from Dr. Esselstyn, from Dr. Fuhrman, and others that I've quoted. I'm putting links below to read all of that. That is today's video. I'm really interested to know what you guys think about this. Had you heard about it before? Maybe read the chapter and tell me what you think. I'd like to know what people think. Does this kind of thing trouble you, or do you think this represents how a lot of research happens these days and it's no big deal? Please give this video a like. If you find this video interesting, please hit subscribe and the little bell there, wherever it is, so that you'll know when I upload new videos. I'm making more videos these days. Thanks for watching.